This video is going to be a little bit different than usual. Maybe the quality won't be as good as my other videos. I also took some notes which I'm going to read throughout, and I'm going to post this very quickly just because I have a few things to say and I just want to put them out there. The reason for this video is that I feel like I need to talk about these things. This has been a difficult week for me, as last Wednesday we all found out that Payne of One Direction sadly left us in Argentina. As a One Direction fan, I can't even begin to explain the sorrow that I felt this past week and the pain that I am still experiencing. I might get a bit emotional, so if you see a few cuts during this video, that's why. But to be fair, I'm not here to talk about my pain. I am also not here to talk about the theories behind his passing, everything that was going on with his ex, everything that is going on with the hotel. We won't be talking about any of that here, so if that's what you're looking for, you can just leave this video now, because as usual, I'm here to talk about mental health. And with this video, I hope to send a message out there that hopefully will make some sort of difference. For me, even if one person is touched, helped, or impacted by my words, then it will be a success for me. These are some pictures of Liam's hotel room in Argentina. Hotel staff reported that he was the one causing all of this. The hotel staff also reported that he was behaving in chaotic and even aggressive way. Liam has in the past talked about his mental health difficulties, he talked about his depression, and he also described different kinds of experiences in relation to his mental health. I think that it is safe for me to make an assumption here, and this, not that this is relevant in any way, but it will maybe help me make some connections with what I want to say. My assumption is that Liam's experiences might have been a result of a possible bipolar disorder. He's never disclosed any official diagnosis. I don't know if he was ever made subject to one, but when I read the files, when I saw some of the interview that he did, this is what came to my mind. If this is true, it is possible that what the hotel was describing as a chaotic and aggressive way might actually have been a manic state, which paired with substances might at least explain to some degree the tragedy that happened. Hey guys, this is Future Bree editing the video. I just wanted to make an addition to say that statistics show that between 25 and 60% of people with bipolar will attempt suicide at least once in their life, and between 4% and 19% will succeed in their intent. I'm just putting it out there because Liam was seen wearing the pin as a necklace, so I just thought it was something worth mentioning. But I want to start from the beginning, just to give some context to people that might not know the entire story, and I think that starting from the beginning might also explain how we got to this point. One Direction was created during X Factor 2010. They initially went to the competition as solo artists, but the idea of putting them together as a band came to Nicole Scherzinger. I hope I'm pronouncing her surname correctly. For a long time, the creation of One Direction was attributed to Simon Cowell, so I just want to stress that it wasn't his idea. It was actually Nicole's, so yeah. One Direction was formed by Harry Styles, Niall Horan, Louis Tomlinson, Zayn Malik, and Liam Payne. As a context, in 2010, Harry was 16, Louis was 18, and Liam, Niall, and Zayn were 17. They didn't win X Factor, they actually arrived third, but they became so popular, especially on social media, and fans were so crazy about them that they gained popularity and quickly became one of the most successful boy bands ever existed. From 2010 to 2015, One Direction were loved by the entire world. Now, let's talk about some concerning aspects, shall we? From 2010 to 2015, One Direction released 5 albums and 4 tours. This is crazy, absolutely crazy. And from 2010 to 2015, I was in between 11 years old and 16 years old. And even though I was myself very young, I started to realize that there was something wrong going on there, that they were releasing a lot of music very quickly, and they were also touring a lot. I think that the reason why I was noticed this is that I was also a big Taylor Swift fan. Taylor Swift is now at her 11th album, but she released 5 albums across 10 years. 10 years. Oh, actually, I'm reading here 11. Her first album, Taylor Swift, was released in 2006, whilst her 5th album, Reputation, was released in 2017. So, yeah, those guys did 10 years of work in 5 years. These were underage kids, and they were absolutely overworked. And I think it's safe to say also exploited to some degree. I remember in those years, One Direction were described as meteors. So there was a lot of talk about how they were very successful, but that fame would have faded straight away. A part of me never really believed that, but I'm guessing that if the producer around them believed that that was the case, then it could have well been that they just made them work very hard to just squeeze them as much as possible and get all the possible gold from them before it was too late. I will make another assumption here, and I take full responsibility for this, but I wonder how is it possible to maintain certain rhythms. During these past few days, I've been thinking whether, substances might have been involved as well, and whether someone was giving them access to these substances, but we will never know, I guess. Although Liam, in his interview at the Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett, said that he started having some problems with substance misuse during One Direction, where apparently they were locked in hotel rooms the entire day, and the only thing he had access to was this minibar, so he was just drinking all day. He also interestingly talked about how they were surrounded by all these people that were making decisions for them, and even though those people were actually working for them, because they were so young, they didn't realize that those were their employees. And actually the guys had more say on what to do than all these adults around them. But I guess the power dynamics were a little bit weird and messed up in that situation. We're just gonna take all this information, put them in our pockets, and come back to them later. It is hard to say also how much the parents were involved in decisions around that time, especially during the early years when these kids were underage. I think the parents needed to have a lot of say, if you ask me, but again, we don't know any of that. Interestingly, I rewatched the One Direction documentary, This Is Us, these past few days with my amazing boyfriend that agreed to watch that with me, and I realized things that I didn't notice before. And me and my boyfriend were just discussing these things, and I want to talk about them now, because there are a few concerning scenes that I think when you watch it at first, especially if you're very young, you don't really realize that is concerning, especially because obviously most of us will not have an idea of how the music industry works, so you will believe that most of those things are normal, but I don't think they are, and even if they are, I don't think they should be. So these are the things that I noticed. Parents kept saying that they were never home. At one point, Louis' mother, Johanna, said that since X Factor, he had been home 5 times. And I think at this point we were in 2013. 2013. So in 3 years, he had been home 5 times. But the guys themselves kept talking about how they were someplace different every single day for years. They literally had so little breaks. And I feel that this is something that comes across quite often in the movie, everybody's always repeating how they're always someplace different, how they're always on the go, how it is very difficult to rest, and this is not normal. And these are young people, these are young guys, and this is a job for them. Like, we all want to have normal working hours, 8, 10 hours a day, 12 if you work in a difficult industry. But those described in the movie are not normal working hours. But the scene that broke my heart the most and made me realize that there was something completely fucked up going on was a scene where Zane is woken up in the middle of the night. Apparently he had been asleep for 10 minutes by, I honestly don't know how the music industry works, but it was someone making music. I don't know what this job role would be. And he wakes him up to record lines. In the middle of the night, he had just fallen asleep. I mean, I'm not giving this person any responsibility. We don't know whether he had pressure coming from, someone else. So, yeah, no shade to this guy, please. But I did find it concerning. Zane was a 20-year-old kid at the time, recording a line. So we're not talking about a guy that is trying to discover the cure for cancer, okay? We are putting songs out there. So let's just try to put everything in perspective here. We are not talking about doctors, surgeons, neurosurgeons that need to wake up in the middle of the night to save lives, okay? We're talking about people recording music. And I honestly don't understand the urgency of waking up someone in the middle of the night to make them record music. Maybe I'm ignorant, maybe I don't understand a thing about the music industry. Fair enough, I left that. So if someone wants to give me some sort of explanation as to why that was allowed to happen, please leave a comment below. I'm very sorry if this is coming across very angry, but I feel so many different emotions about this. I can't even begin to explain it. So let's fast forward. In 2014, Zane left the band. It was all very sudden. It was in the middle of a world tour, and we didn't really know what happened behind the scenes. The other guys at the time said that he wasn't really enjoying the band, whilst they were, although 2 years later the band went hiatus, so we don't really know what happened behind the scenes. In hindsight, it is possible that Zane was just very stressed. He also had lost a lot of weight. That is something that I remember vividly. I mean, to be completely honest, after the band went hiatus and also, life got in the way, university and work, I haven't been online as much as I did when I was a teenager, so maybe I missed a few interviews. I definitely missed a few interviews, and so I might be wrong about this, but I think that Liam was the only one openly talking about the struggles of being in the band. I don't think any of the other guys did it. Maybe Zane did, but again, I'm not completely sure. Louis definitely wrote some lines about the struggles of being in 1D or the impact that it had on him. But again, they didn't really talk about openly about any struggle, any difficulties, and what it meant for them. So these are just speculation. It might be that they were having the time of their lives and it was the best time ever for them. But I did find these things concerning. So in 2015, as I was saying, the band went hiatus, and each of the guys in the band went to pursue careers as solo singers. I think some of them had more success than others. Harry was definitely, I think, the most successful one, but overall, I don't think any of them reached the popularity that they had when they were in One Direction. And here is where we're gonna start talking about a few psychological insights that I had about this situation. Can you imagine being at the top of your popularity when you are 16, 17, 20, even 25, having all that fame and even having all that power on thousands and thousands of people around the world? I was thinking how that must do something to you, especially when you are that young. I think it's only normal that something like that happens. And to lose all of that suddenly, or quite suddenly, might be very difficult to experience and very difficult to deal with. Also, having that fame at such a young age might mean that you start to associate your value to the opinion that other people have of you. And until people's opinion of you is positive, everything is good, everything is great, and you are at the top of the world. But as soon as people's opinion of you starts to change, then things might change for you quite drastically as well. I'm not saying this happens to everyone, but it can happen, especially to people that can be particularly vulnerable to mental health difficulties. But anyway, I think this is what happened to Liam a little bit. He was at the top of the world when he was in One Direction. I think his popularity decreased in his solo career, and we know that in the weeks prior to his passing, unfortunately, he was receiving a lot of hate online. So we can only imagine how he might have experienced that. Something that breaks my heart is how he was often criticized for talking about the other guys in the band or reminiscing times in One Direction. I think that he was the person talking the most about One Direction and the most about the other guys, and I think that he was doing it because some of his best memories were of course connected to One Direction, but I did wonder whether it might have also been a safe thing for him to talk about, and he held on to those memories so strongly because maybe in his present he was struggling a little bit compared to previous times. But to be fair, I think that there were loads of things that might have impacted One Direction when they were really young. And not only One Direction, I think that young artists can be severely impacted by the industry a lot of different ways. Substance misuse, especially when it starts at quite a young age, can have so much impact on your brain that can lead to the development of even serious mental health disorders such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. And when you take substances, your brain might stop producing certain chemicals, so that can lead to the development of disorders such as anxiety or depression later in life. We don't know whether that was the case for them. And then, as I was saying before, we have heavy rhythms, lack of sleep, and I think that was something that we can give for guarantee that it happened to them, and that can also have a lot of impact on someone's mental health, brain development, and overall functioning later in life. So yeah, there are a few things that, especially when they happen at such crucial developmental stage, might really impact someone's life. I'm not saying this happened to One Direction. I don't know if this happened to Liam. This is me brainstorming, I guess, and trying to find a reason for what happened. So maybe this is just my way of coping. So yeah, as I was saying before, Liam received a lot of hate online, and this was especially strong in the past few weeks due to some issues that happened with his ex-girlfriend. And yeah, I said that I wouldn't have talked about that. I mean, if you're watching this video, you probably know to some degree what happened. If you don't know, you can find information online. The reason why I don't want to talk about this is because I don't want this video to become a Maya Henry thing. I just want to talk about Liam, his mental health. I want to talk about One Direction. The only thing I want to say is that we need to be very careful online in general, and I'm not talking about this specific case, okay? We need to be very careful about dividing assumptions from facts, and it's okay to call someone out for his action. Sometimes a call out can be very effective, although a call out is different from hate online and online bullying. But before calling someone out, make sure that you're basing your call out on facts. And I hope that the tragedy that happened last week will teach people that sharing opinion in a constructive way can be very helpful and can help people grow. Sending hate is not gonna help anyone. Apart from this, Liam was also being called an attention seeker because a few days before his passing, he attended Niall's concert and he was dancing, and some people called him an attention seeker, although I thought that he was just having fun, but hey, who knows, maybe I'm an attention seeker as well. Finally, it appears that Liam's discographic label wanted to end the contract with him, and it could be that Liam found out about this a few days, if not a few hours, before his passing. So after everything we talked about, you know, fame and possibly substances and, you know, everything experienced when he was in the band, maybe we can try to understand what went wrong that tragic night. Apart from all the conspiracy theories, okay? I don't want to hear any theories about anything else here. In psychology, we tend to differentiate between slow triggers and fast triggers. Slow triggers are things that happen in the background that maybe have been going on for some time and that are affecting you, are increasing stress, but again, they're acting in the background. So in this case, we could think that maybe, you know, Maya Henry's allegation could have been a slow trigger, online bullying might have been a slow trigger, and people calling him an attention seeker could have been a slow trigger, and who knows what else was going on in that poor guy's life. But then we also have fast triggers. So fast triggers are immediate triggers. So again, maybe there are a lot of things that happen in the background, but then something happens that make you snap. If it's true that Liam found out about his discographic label wanting to end the contract a few hours before his death, that could have been a fast trigger. But honestly, everything could be a fast trigger. He could have had a minor argument, or he might have hurt himself, you know? And that was the final straw for him. He couldn't take it anymore. So there was something, there was a fast trigger for him that potentially started a manic episode, or that made him want to take drugs. You know, maybe it was the combination of these two things, and then things went on a spiral, and unfortunately, the tragedy happened. What pains me the most about all of this is that it could have been so easily avoided. Liam did not want to end his life. He had an album in the making, a tour was being planned, he was talking about wedding with his girlfriend. He had projects and he was looking forward to the future. He did not want to end his life, and I really hope that people are reflecting on the impact of online hate. Liam had already opened up about his mental health difficulties. People knew that he struggled with his mental health. Sending hate online to anyone is a bad thing, but sending hate to someone that struggles with mental health difficulties is just cruel. It's just cruel, it's just mean, you know, and dangerous. I can't even begin to describe how evil that is. People don't need to be saints in order to receive some human decency. You don't need to deserve the right of not being sent hate. You know, you don't need the right to deserve respect. This is just basic human rights that everybody deserves. In my experience as a psychologist, I work with people who committed crime, and part of the reason why I've done that is because I believe that nobody deserves hate, and that everybody needs compassion and deserves respect and deserves support and help. I honestly believe that hate is literally destroying our world. And I don't want to go on a tangent here, but I can't even begin to explain to people the impact that love, compassion, and respect can have on so many people, and how much it can have a domino effect on the entire society. And I really, really hope people are reflecting on that in the past few days. This tragic event also made me reflect on the problems in the musical industry. For example, I want to read to you what Rebecca Ferguson said about this matter. It's always a hotel room, and I would say it really is always an hotel room. We both met at Euston Station and shared a taxi together to X Factor, young, innocent, and affected by fame. I can't help but think of that boy who was hopeful and looking forward to his bright future ahead. If he hadn't jumped on the train and jumped in the taxi, I believe he would be alive today. I've spoken for years about the exploitation and profiteering of young stars and the effects many of us are still living with, the aftermath and the PTSD. Many of us are devastated and reflective today as it has finally taken its first victim. Rest in peace, Liam. I hope you find peace on the other side, and love to your mom and family. Devastating. This is absolutely devastating. Recent news also about P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, whatever you want to call him, also highlighted a lot of issues and a lot of things that are going on in the music industry, but not only, because it appears that loads of VIPs were involved. And I think we're starting to open a Pandora box, and I personally think it's time that something gets done. Luckily, after what happened, a lot of people are starting to proactively change things. For example, an amazing girl on Twitter started this petition for the safeguarding of artists in the music industry. If you want to sign the petition, I am going to leave it down in the description box below. In the link, you will also find information about the law and why it is very important to sign it. I think in general, we need to do more. Firstly, I would really love for music competitions such as X Factor that host a lot of young artists to have mental health specialists in place to support the artists throughout the journey and to prepare them for the possible fame that waits for them out there. Also, parents should be more involved, and if that's not possible, appropriate adults should be appointed by parents to safeguard minors, especially when they are touring and away from their families. And also, we really need decent contracts with legal working hours in line with what is expected of people a certain age. Finally, I would like to do something else. If you are an artist, a young artist, or if you have just worked in the music industry and want to share your story, please send me an email at the email address below. This invitation is also open to parents or friends, especially if the people involved are under contract and they cannot share the stories, but with their permission, you would like to do so for them and give them a voice. This can also be anonymous, and I want to use my spaces to just raise more awareness about this sport and about the conditions that a lot of artists endure constantly. I feel it's like a very overlooked industry because I think everybody believes that people in that industry are so privileged that they can't possibly suffer or that they must be happy with what they do, but I know that's not necessarily the case. And yeah, if I receive some of your stories, I will make one or more dedicated videos on my channel and just to raise more awareness and possibly push for this law and regulations to be in place. I just want to conclude this video saying that last week's news deeply affected me and it made me reflect a lot on my work and on what I can do. On Monday, I was at Liam's memorial and I made a promise to him, I made a promise to myself that I will use my psychology competencies, all my resources and all my channels to prevent as much as possible that what happened to him will not happen again to anybody else. I don't think it's fair that people die because of their mental health. So yeah, that's all. As I said, a little bit of a different video, but I'm guessing if you're watching, the topic is of your interest. So yeah, thank you so much for watching and treat people with kindness.